What's going on, everybody? This is me, Mark. I am back again at BlerDCon 2025, and I am here with Mr. Rod. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and tell everybody a little bit about yourself and your comic series.
Okay. My name is Rod Van Blake. I'm the author of the Ancient Illumination science fiction series, as well as the Yambani Chronicles fantasy series. Now, both series have been made into both comic books and graphic novels, but they first started as literary novels.
Okay, that's really interesting. How long have you been writing for comics?
My first novel was published in 2016. We didn't start working with an artist until 2019, where he started taking the chapters and basically formatting them into graphic novels. That's where we started first when the pandemic hit, because we had no conventions to go to in 2020. So we started making the two graphic novels, and then 2021 we started a comic series for the fantasy.
That's interesting. What was the process like working with an illustrator and artist, turning your novel into an actual comic book? What was that process like?
Scary. First we figured out the contract and what his pricing was. We got together on that, and then we went about, my first project I didn't actually script out. Now I'm at the point where I can script out the panels and then give that script to the artist. So the first one we were kind of flying by the seat of our pants. He basically did the majority of the work, formatting and stitching together the story from my actual chapters. And then he would show me the panels and I would approve or disapprove or make corrections, and we go about it that way. But that was kind of slow. Now with that, I can actually script myself. I can just hand that directly over to the artist and have them say, this is what I want. And then I give them leeway to kind of adjust things, because I'm the writer, they're the artist, they know more of how the format fits. So if they tell me, hey, this you're giving me is 6 panels, but it really should be broken up into 8 panels, then I give them the levity to kind of make that adjustment.
Okay. Was it like a huge learning curve, learning how to write scripts for comics versus just novelizations?
Very different. Basically what ended up happening is he gave me a script from another comic project that he had found through a letterer that we found in California. And when I looked at that script, I basically just read it, looked through how the formatting was and the forms, how it was filled out. And then I deleted everything and started using my books as the subject matter. And basically I just kind of erased it and then started filling it in the way I saw it, but using my IP.
Okay. Now, when you first, not even when you first sent out the script, but when the illustrator first started coming up with concept art for your characters, for your storylines and your overall environment, what was that first impression like when you first saw the concept art come back?
For the most part, relief. With Jordan Jackson, he's the guy that I'm working with for my mainline stories. My wife and I met him at a smaller convention in Howard County, Maryland, and she liked his art. She said, you need to go check his art out, because I think your story, his art, will make a good marriage. So I liked his art. He had a lot of Afrocentric art. He was working on the Orishas concept art, which is funny because my fantasy story has the Orishas in it. So it kind of lined up. I liked his style. It was just sometimes you get different results with artists. I'll have an artist and I'll say, hey, do the concept for this character, because I like their art that they've previously done. So I'm hoping that they apply that same style to just my stuff. And then you'll get a different result. But with Jordan, it was nearly perfect. I couldn't have asked for a better start, because I've seen and heard a lot of horror stories about artists and writers working together and it not working out. I just so happen to be very lucky where it lined up perfectly. The art was great. The concepts were great. We've had a lot of fun debates over differences of opinion, but it ends up working for the best as our two different perspectives end up meshing well, so the end product ends up being really good.
Gotcha. So we are here at BlerDCon 2025, and you have a booth in the vendors hall. People have been coming and going and just kind of glancing at your booth, or they seem to be interested. What has the overall response been to the general audience when they come by your booth and check out your work?
I get a lot of looks, mainly because the artwork that I have up. I've worked with a few different artists for concepts, so purposefully I have some prints that now have some different effects on them. So they see the characters, they see that some of the prints have texture, chromatic effects to them, so they're really drawn to the art, and that gives me opportunities to start speaking to them. But it's con life, so there are a lot of times that people come up and they just want to look, and they'll tell you right away, I'm just looking. There are some people that walk up and be like, yo, I don't know what this is, but I want it. What's the first book? And sometimes they'll tell me, I can ask them, are you interested more in literary works, or are you interested more in illustrated works? Some people, that's the funny thing is, I had no plans on being a comic producer. I just wanted to write the books, but somebody was like, yo, story sounds dope. I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm not reading 300 pages. Can you draw it for me? But I can't draw. So that's why it took us a couple years to find an artist to make that happen. But that gives, I didn't want to miss out on the audience. I had no plans. I didn't want to miss out on people that wanted just the visual arts versus literary work. So in order to make that happen, I figured that would be an opportunity to get my story to as many people as possible. So people can come and choose. They want the comics, the graphic novels, they can do that. If they want a more detailed story and a literary and have the pictures in their mind, then they can get the literary work. And today's the last day. So usually we get the people that come up to you and tell you, I'm just getting my list down. I'm writing down, seeing what all is here. I'll be back. And then some people come back, some people don't. But it's usually a good experience. And we've been coming here since 2021. I haven't had a bad BlerDCon yet, knock on wood. So I think it's going to be pretty much the same this year.
Okay. That's interesting, because I was going to ask you, like, it seemed like you weren't really trying to get into comics, and I just want to know what led to that, but you explained it.
Yeah.
Better question, since you go to other comic conventions that's not BlerDCon, is the reception at other conventions the same as BlerDCon, or is it like less, or is it more? Does BlerDCon help accentuate your sales at the end of the day?
The interesting thing to me about BlerDCon is that I feel like the big box conventions are about celebrities and specific fandoms. So they're not necessarily coming for me as a black author. BlerDCon, they're looking for black creators and creators of color. So I feel like you kind of get, shooting in a fish in a barrel, because they're here specifically for the creators that look like them. So we get more of a push here, whereas there may be a larger convention, say it has 30, 40,000 people. All them people ain't here to see me. They're here to get pictures with, some actor at $300 a pop. So they may not have money for a $10 book by the time they circle back to you like, oh man, I'm really interested, but I ain't got it. I just had this $500 picture with Billy D. Williams. Sorry. And then I'm out. So that's the advantage of BlerDCon. It's a smaller convention, but I feel like it's drilled down the target audience for creators like us. And I think that's why a lot of times we really do well here.
Okay. That's actually really interesting.
You have to work for it more at the bigger ones.
No, I get that. I definitely get that.
Yeah.
Now let me ask you, since you are African American and your book is more Afrocentric based, what can non-melanated people get from your books?
It's cool stuff. That's the bottom line. I got into this because I liked Star Wars. I was in the military, stationed in Japan, gotten into anime, got into reading Star Wars because I'm dating myself at the time. Phantom Menace was about to come back when I was rotating back to the United States, and I started reading Star Wars novels. I read so much of that crap. I was like, man, I read so much of this, I wonder if I could write one. So I wrote one that was Star Wars, not my IP. So I was like, yeah, I got to write my own thing. So I started doing my own thing. So yeah, as a person of color, I mean, non-melanated people, if you like, not to be funny, if you like ass whooping, we got ass whooping. If you like aliens and space battles, we got aliens and space battles. If you like dragons, you like magic users, you like elves, you like sword play and all the trappings and fantasy and the epic saga, then anybody can relate to that. Because think about this, when I was a kid growing up watching Superman and He-Man, I don't look like them. I still thought the stories were cool.
That's true.
And so I gravitated to those stories. So it's not strictly for black folks, it's for folks that like the things that I write about, regardless of the colors of the characters.
But with that very thing said, how important is it for African Americans and people of color to see themselves in the media that they consume? Because you're right, we didn't grow up seeing a lot of black characters in a lot of the nerdy stuff that we like growing up, but now that's not the case anymore. So is black representation in geek media important, or are we overthinking it?
Absolutely integral to the enjoyment of things, because we finally got to feel like all you got to do is look at the results of what happened when Black Panther came out, the first one.
Yeah.
And people acted a dunk, and they came up, they showed up and showed out. Everybody had dashikis, everybody had their African garb that they could find. Everybody was doing the Wakanda Forever.
Right.
And then to piggyback off that, when the second film came out, and you saw the Latinos, the people of Mexican descent, when the Talkin came out,
right.
And it was funny because you saw people going Wakanda Forever, and then the Talkin was like doing their greeting right back. And so everybody, it seemed like, had their piece, was able to come together and have something to get excited about because it was them, and it relieved the complaints, because you see all the cosplay you see here at BlerDCon, and you have people of color and black folks dressing up as characters, and no one's running up and immediately saying, actually, that character is not black. Like, okay.
Right.
So now, and that's the other reason why I wanted to create my fantasy series. I'm hoping that some people cosplay my characters, because no one can go up and tell them that character isn't black. Wendell Smith, a cosplayer that's here, dressed up as...
I'm very familiar with Wendell Smith.
Last year, or the year before at BlerDCon, hey, there's my artist right there, it's Jordan Jackson. Came dressed as Olarum, the Orisha, one of the gods from my stories, in full garb with the robe. He had the big beads around his neck, everything, as one of my characters. We took pictures of him, and also the alternate cover artist, Shauna Lane. We took pictures with that guy. So that was kind of a dope thing, to have somebody come show up as one of my characters. And when he saw, and that was the thing, he cosplays many characters. He saw the comic book cover that we had. He saw that the god had a bald head. He already had a bald head. He was like, yo, I can put that together. And so he had messaged me on Facebook. He's like, I got something for you. And sure enough, he showed up dressed full on as one of my characters, and that's dope.
So, okay. A lot of stuff to piggyback off of. What was that like, just him showing up and seeing, and you seeing him cosplay as your character? Like, was it like just mind-blowing? Was it something that you never thought would happen? Like, oh my God, I didn't think people would start cosplaying as my character.
I was honored, to be honest, and I was humbled. It was cool to see, and I'm hoping that a lot more people end up doing it, because I feel like that's part of making it.
Right.
And when people start to take ownership of your IP and live that out, then, and if somebody starts arguing over your stuff online and you have strangers cussing each other out, I think that's when you've made it. If I get, they see space travel in my book and they're arguing over how hyperdrives work in the books.
Oh no, you've definitely made it. You've definitely made it when you have people arguing about hyperdrives in a fictional setting. So, like, congratulations. That's a big deal right there.
When they're passionate enough to cuss each other out, when they don't even know each other in like 2 different states or countries, then you know you've got something that you build a passionate fan base, and that's what I hope to build.
Gotcha. So another thing I want to ask you, because just out in geekdom, this is a thing. I want to ask your hot take on race-swapping characters, and I'm going to bring up Black Panther, because whenever, say, Disney or someone comes out and they take what was originally a character that was cast as European American or European ancestry, and then they race swap them, like the Little Mermaid, like Gaston from Beauty and the Beast. The internet is in an uproar about race swapping, and they always come back to, what if Black Panther was white? And then you see Jake Gyllenhaal as Black Panther circling around the internet. What is your hot take on that?
I don't care. As long as the character is good and it's well written and they race swap it, I'm fine with it. If it's just you just putting a white or a black face on a character just for the sake of doing so, it's not going to mean anything. The best example of this I can give, I don't know if you've read The Foundation by Isaac Asimov.
Yes.
You have?
Yes.
Have you watched the TV show on Apple TV?
No, I have not.
There are 2 characters. Two of the main characters in that show were, obviously, because it was written in like the 50s and 60s, were old white men. They changed them to black women in the TV series. Now, it has to make a difference in the storyline. If the character is just treated the same as the character, no matter the race, then it doesn't do anything, doesn't move anything. These 2 women characters end up being integral to the story, and they do something interesting with them traveling long distances in space, where they believe that radiation would damage their eggs if they were to have children. So they did something where they froze the eggs and save them for a later date, which ends up being really integral to the story. So because it meant something to the story that these were that they were women, and then that they were black women, it changed the story and in my opinion, made the story better and gave it some more depth. So in that instance, the race swap and the gender swap was merited, and it made a big difference. If you just give me a black Superman and the world in which he supposedly lives in relates to him the exact same way as Clark is related to, then you've done nothing.
Right.
But if you treat him as a black man and we have to live with the realities of what we go through at the same time, giving this person all these powers, that changes the narrative, then you've done something. You've given depth to the character that was already cool, and the changes actually matter, makes the story better. Then I have no problem with them swapping out the race. It just depends on how it's executed.
Right. You just got my nerd gears turning in my head. You said Black Superman and like
Val-Zod.
Yes. So there's no way feasibly possible you can have a Black Superman who has all that power, knowing what that character represents, and him still be like Clark Kent in the storylines, and have him be treated the way that Clark Kent or Superman's treated. Black Superman will be a social pariah because he's black, given the fact of how current history in American things like that is going. That I never even thought about that, because I'm a Superman denier, so I don't think about the character a lot. But when you started like really like saying that, I was like, wait a minute, that wouldn't work. Like
they fear regular dudes.
Right,
like
they fear regular dudes.
Me on the street, walking down the street as a 6'9", 300-something pound black dude, and folks are scared as hell. Now imagine I'm impervious to most damage.
Right.
The only thing that gives me a weakness is an extreme rarity, and now someone's trying to pull me over, and they're like, you can't really do nothing.
Right.
And they're scared of regular people.
Right. Black Superman wouldn't be a hero. He would be a public enemy number one. They'll always be making an example out of him. Like, whatever. This is the dichotomy of that just kind of like had my gears turning a little bit. But
so in my opinion, you'd have to write it that way to give the story the meat and bones that it needs, so that people can kind of cling on to.
And with that said, that automatically makes Superman more interesting to me as a character, because the reason why I don't care for Superman is because he's just a Jesus allegory, and I'm kind of tired of seeing that in media. Like, come on, like Superman, Goku, a bunch of other characters I can name, but when you just take that one thing and change it about him, he can still be from Krypton. He's just black and in America, and we all know how America is.
Make him poor.
Right. Like,
and make him rise above it, and everybody hating on him.
It doesn't matter what you do.
He can't do nothing.
Right. He's the most powerful person in the DC universe, in America, in the DC universe. He will be somewhere, once they capture him, he will be somewhere with a constant red sunbeam on him, just locked up, because they would be afraid of him. He would not be a hero to the world. Even though he would still be a hero to us, he won't be a hero to that world he's trying to protect. That's so interesting. All right, we gotta get back to the interview. I'm sorry, just nerding out with people is awesome sometimes. How important is BlerDCon to the local DC community?
Very, because it gives them a place. It gives them a place to be free here. Within, like I said, the negative things that happen at the big box cons aren't necessarily going to happen. Negative stuff still happens here, happens everywhere.
Right.
But it's not going to be as pointed, I think, as directed. When you have a lot of anime fans dress up as certain characters, and people always wanting to critique what that character is and isn't, and why you are not the right depiction of that character, they're going to face that a lot less here. And therefore, I feel like it's kind of a place for them to kind of be free and get their geek on without interference from other folks, and just kind of do their thing. So I think it's very important.
I've been thinking about this. I don't know how to say it. It's going to sound kind of weird, but again, this is my first BlerDCon, and this has been such a unique experience for me. I've gone to so many other cons, DragonCon, MomoCon, AWA, and it feels like when you walk in there, especially DragonCon, especially as long as I've been going, it's like, where's the black people? Where's the black people? And you see them scattered out. This experience, this con, just seeing us being dominant, I finally know what it feels like to be like a European American. Like, oh, this is what they feel. This is why they're like, we're being erased and all this stuff. Because that, just being able to walk around and just be comfortable and not be judged, not say you don't belong, not, that unsafe feeling like that we just get being Black in America. Here at BlerDCon, I feel like I'm just a normal person.
Yeah, and it's funny because you get what I call like a convention family. You see kind of the same artists and creators all around. And even if I don't necessarily say anything, I always make a note, especially if I see another Black author, especially in the science fiction and fantasy genre.
Right.
When you go to the big box cons, there's a handful of us. And I remember when I first started going around, and you notice like, oh, it's another Black author. Like, hey, how you doing?
Right.
It's Rod. I write science fiction too. How you doing? And it's funny, you end up seeing the same ones.
Right.
Different places spread across the country. We're going to DC next month. I'll be back at C2E2 in Chicago, back home where I'm from. And you see the same group of folks. No matter where we go, we kind of travel around and do our thing. So yeah, to have us all grouped into one place at once is an anomaly. Yeah,
and like I've gotten to meet like other comic book creators that I've been following. I'm like, I can't wait for them to come to Atlanta. No, I got to come to them in BlerDCon in DC because that's where they're going to be at, because they can't come to Atlanta either. My biggest issue about BlerDCon is I don't have enough money to be in the vendor hall to give everybody the support that I really want. Like, everybody down there has something I want just because it's something I want, or they're a comic book author or a writer or an artist that I follow that I have comics of, and like I want to like literally spend money with you, but I don't have but so much of it. I'm not a millionaire, but if I could come to BlerDCon next year and give $50 to everybody and I come out with their stuff, I would be happy. But there's no way I could do that. That's my one complaint about BlerDCon. Everything else about BlerDCon has been amazing so far.
And I haven't got down to DragonCon yet. It's on the list to get to.
DragonCon is a different beast. I will say that.
It can't be a different beast in New York, so.
Never been. So
that is a whole nother animal right there. And NYCC is crazy.
No. You know what? Let's agree to disagree, because DragonCon is a big deal. I know New York Comic Con is an even bigger deal. But you just got to experience it. Then once you experience it, then you can compare and contrast.
I mean, once you've been through over 300,000 something ticket sales over the span of 4 days, I feel like after that.
No, I get it. New York Comic Con is a beast.
Yeah.
But before we go, where can everybody find you and your work if they want to check you out and order some of your books?
You can find Ancient Illumination and Yumbani Chronicles. That's Nyumbani. Yumbani, it means home in Swahili. Chronicles. You can find me on ancientillumination.net. That is my author website if you want it direct from me. You can also go pretty much everywhere that books are available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and find my books. The only difference is if you order direct from me, I can sign the copies and ship them to you wherever you are.
Gotcha. And do you have any advice for anybody out there who wants to start creating their own comics, whether it's writing or drawing, or anyone who wants to start becoming a novelist and writing their own stories?
Get it done is the first thing. If I had a nickel for everybody who says they're about to write a book or they're working on a book, get the work done, worry about perfecting it later. That's what editors are for. Because I have some people that are like, oh, it's not, I need to fix this and fix that, but they're not actually getting done. So they're constantly just stuck at wherever they're at in the story because they're constantly editing and doing other things. And life is going to get away. There's not going to be a perfect time to finish, but you have to make sure you finish. Because if it's not finished, you can't do anything with just that idea.
Right.
I think 98% of us have stories. I think 2 to 3% of us actually act and execute those ideas. So I would say get the work done, finish it, perfect it later so it's ready to be introduced to the world, and then see where it takes you.
Right. That's some words to live by right there. But for everybody else, this has been BlerDCon 2025. Stay tuned for more coverage. I'll be back soon. All right, thank you.
Appreciate you.
This was interesting. Also, hold on, before you cut, can you show his shirt? Can you show off your shirt?
Yeah.
I think that I saw that and I was like, okay, that's dope. I know you're a Star Wars fan.
Yeah, the wife says universe. So mine says galaxy, hers says universe.
Okay, that's dope. But thank you again.
Appreciate you.
No problem.